So I came across some jarring information tonight, and I have to tell someone about it. So I've been keeping tabs on Neuralink a lot lately, Elon Musk's brain chip company, because with all of the 1930 style propaganda coming from the White House as of late, I just have this really bad feeling that Elon Musk might be our Dr. Joseph Mengele. And here's why. First of all, if you haven't already, please go follow me over on Substack, The Dre Dossier. It's free. The link is in my bio. This full video is going to be posted there along with a deeper dive and with all of my sources cited. So please go subscribe. So in July of 2025, this year, Elon Musk announced that Neuralink needs to go from 7 brain implants to about 1,000 implants by the end of 2026. Now, that's about 993 people over the course of, 15 months now, who would be willing to get an experimental brain surgery. That's like 60 some odd patients a month. And at the rate in which it took him to get 7 done, feels nearly impossible, if you ask me. Now, there are a couple things that have been bothering me, especially about these Neuralink sites, because they have approved through the FDA 2 sites in the United States. One, which is in Phoenix, Arizona at the Barrow Neurological Institute, and the other, which is in Miami, Florida, which is at the University of Miami, which has a big neurological brain study program. Both of those cities also have really, really large ICE detention centers very close by. Now, yes, in Miami, they have Alligator Alcatraz, but they also have Chrome Detention Facility, which is like their super large one where a lot of the intake usually goes through. From December of 2024 to February of 2025, there have been 3 deaths once a month at Chrome Detention Facility, and all of them had to do with neurological symptoms, like brain hemorrhages and seizures and vomiting and the like. Not unlike what a lot of the outcomes of the monkeys that Elon Musk used to operate on looked like. Just for the record. Now, there's a different kind of pattern that's equally concerning in Phoenix, Arizona. So Neuralink operates, like I said, at the Barrow Neurological Institute, and then right nearby there are major ICE detention facilities, Eloy and Florence. Now, the amount of time spent in solitary confinement at these Arizona facilities went from 14 days in 2024, which had been a pattern since like 2021, to 38 days in 2025 as the average. Like, that's a 271% increase. 38 days is more than a month with no witnesses, no oversight, no documentation of what's happening. And all of this just so happens to be going on and increasing right when Neuralink is also trying to desperately scale up their operation so they can stay competitive with other countries. So those patterns have been bothering me for quite some time now, right? Especially with the Alligator Alcatraz now like missing hundreds of detainees that have no record and like all of it. So I decided to dig a little deeper tonight, and I went to usaspending.gov, which is this website where you can search for all of the federal contracts that are made public. So you can search for anything related to, I don't know, the Department of Defense and neurosurgery, for instance. And that's when I noticed something kind of weird happening, because Honolulu kept coming up a lot with DoD contracts and neurological surgery, like over and over and over again. And I'm thinking to myself, why Honolulu? Like, what's going on in Honolulu? I mean, all of them were from the Department of Defense, and they were all for these different neurological services, neurological procedures, neurological surgery practices, and they were all ramping up starting in 2025. And the company that was getting all of these contracts was called NIR LLC, and the work was being performed out of Triple Army Medical Center, which is this really big military hospital in Honolulu. I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, well, maybe this is just normal medical family military care. But when I went to look up NIR LLC to see if I could learn more about them, there was nothing about them online. There's no company website, there's no physician names, nothing on them. I mean, for a medical contractor who's doing so many neurological surgery procedures with federal money, not having so much as a website feels odd. But then, at the very bottom of the Google search, I saw a link to a MapQuest that said NIR, and it had like a little point of where it was. So I clicked the link, and it showed NIR LLC at the location of 888 South King Street in Honolulu. Now, if you were to look up NIR LLC on any other map, nothing comes up. But when you type in 888 South King Street, Honolulu, something does come up. And that something is Straub Medical Center, which is one of Hawaii's largest civilian hospitals that has a major neurology and neurosurgery department. So now I'm really confused, right? Because why is their billing address a commercial office building, but then they're actually operating out of a civilian hospital with a huge neurosurgery center, but then the Department of Defense is paying them for services at a military hospital all on the same island? Like, this feels like a paper trail that's being obfuscated on purpose a little bit. I'm thinking, well, maybe does Neuralink operate out of Honolulu, Hawaii? And I just didn't know about it. And I look it up, and no, Hawaii isn't listed on the official trial site. It's just Miami, Florida, and Phoenix, Arizona, and then Toronto, Canada. I'm thinking to myself, well, just because the FDA doesn't know about it doesn't mean that it's not necessarily happening. So I decided to go on LinkedIn to see if I can find anybody who has Neuralink listed as their current employer and also lives in Honolulu, Hawaii. And that's when I find two people. First one is a clinical project manager who works at Neuralink and lives in Honolulu, Hawaii. And it looks like she's been with Neuralink for a few years now. And I looked at her job responsibilities, and it said trial site management, implementation of clinical trials, management and oversight of external vendors, negotiating and building relationships with organizations. She manages trial sites and external vendors, but Hawaii isn't an official Neuralink trial site. So what you doing, sis? The other person I found was this guy who runs something called Hang 10 Capital, and he lives in Honolulu, Hawaii. And it's a private equity firm that also runs out of Honolulu, Hawaii. And they invest in things like fintech and food startups, but I looked at their portfolio and saw Neuralink listed. All right, so we have some smoking guns in Honolulu. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, so if the thesis here is that something sus is going on with Neuralink and the operation facilities being close to ICE detention centers, does this fit that thesis? Like, is there an ICE detention facility near these, medical facilities in Honolulu? And oh boy, did I regret asking that question. Apparently, in February of 2025, ICE had signed an agreement to start housing detainees at FDC Honolulu. That's a 992-bed detention center facility. Like, I didn't know about, did anybody else know about this? And then I found an article from July 2025 that was talking about this and was saying that detainees were being transferred to Hawaii from Florida and Arizona detention facilities, the exact two states where Neuralink trials had started. And so I looked up the distance between FDC Honolulu and Straub Medical Center, where NIR LLC actually operates from apparently, and it's 8 miles, a quick 15-minute drive. And to make things worse, the same time in February of 2025, when that agreement was being signed between ICE and Honolulu, Elon Musk's Doge was still in the White House. You remember that? And they had apparently, while they were there, had fired 20 FDA employees that month in February. And so I looked up which department they were from, and they were from none other than the Office of Neurological and Physical Medicine Devices. Yeah, the exact office that oversees Neuralink's clinical trials. Anyone else feeling a little bit queasy, or is that just me? And so I'm looking into this further, and I found that when detainees are transferred to Hawaii, they're apparently often going through 5 to 7 different facilities first. Like, one detainee was arrested in Florida in May and then went through 2 other facilities, then to Louisiana, then Arizona, and then some California facilities, and then landed in Hawaii. He wasn't even served with a charging document until June. That's a month of completely unaccounted time. Just think about it. Not only is there minimal oversight during that month, but then by the time that they get to Hawaii, they're 4,500 miles away from anyone. That's complete isolation. And then if they complain after a procedure is over, they can just be deported and nobody would even know about it. That's exactly what happened at Irwin County Detention Center in Georgia, where women were reported as having unauthorized gynecological procedures and then were deported within days if they complained. Oh, and I forgot to mention that in April of 2025, acting ICE Director Todd Lyons had given a presentation at the Border Security Expo in Phoenix, and he had specifically stated that they had been working with Elon Musk's Doge frequently. That just doesn't make me feel any better either. So look, either I'm seeing patterns that just aren't there, or we're watching something horrifying happen in real time. I mean, these are people who can't speak out, who can't sue, who can't even call their families. I mean, these people have moved through multiple facilities with no documentation and ended up moving 4,500 miles away from anybody who could do anything to help them. And if they wake up one day with scars that they don't remember getting, who is going to believe them? I need people talking about this, journalists who are in positions of power who can investigate NIR LLC, and lawyers who are asking about these transfers to come forward and speak publicly about it, and someone with power demanding these answers, because I don't know what to do. Because if I'm wrong, then great. We can all sleep better at night knowing that this is just some bizarre coincidence. But if I'm right, then that means every day that we're not talking about this is another day that somebody could be getting hurt. Like, really hurt.